Hi, welcome back to Twin Chat. I'm Kenan McCumber, mom of two and teacher living in Bend, Oregon.
And hi, I'm Steph Kafori, mom of three, a life coach living in Hawaii. So, Kenan and I want to talk to you today about mommy guilt. And we're going to bring it full circle to mindfulness. But first, I want to talk to you about what mommy guilt is. And I'm sure those of you who are out there um, have experienced this because, in my experience, most moms have had this feeling at one time or another. And I've had lots of conversation with friends, and Kenan and I have talked about this over the years. Um, and what this means to us is that you're either not doing enough or you're doing too much. And whether we work inside the home or outside of the home, it doesn't matter. This feeling of mom guilt is rampant. And I've worked inside the home and outside of the home because I've been a consultant for the past 10 years since my kids were born. And that's when I first started my marketing consultancy, was right before my son Bodie, who's now 10, before he was born. And I realized that I wanted to be home to raise my kids. So I got out of the advertising agency world. Um, and because I had this thought that if I worked from home, that I would actually get to spend more time with my children. And there was some truth to that, but it was a challenging road. Um, and I had this gift of doing what I loved and getting to be at home and go to the playground with my kids. But like I said, it also came with its challenges. So I remember, a number of occasions going, taking my kids to the park, and I'd have to take a client call, and I would see, or what I would interpret, because I don't know if this is true or not, but I would interpret these moms over in the corner at the, playing in the sand or whatever with their kids, looking at me and saying, um, oh, there she is on she's talking on her phone. She's not engaging with her kids and playing with them. And I wanted to like yell at them and say, I'm on a work call. I am doing this so I can be home with my children. And this is the double edged sword, right? And then sometimes I'd be sending an email and I wanted to also yell, I'm not on social media. And not that I have any judgment for people who are on social media. I actually think if your kids are playing, they should be able to play alone at the park. They should be able to enjoy playing with other children. There's a time for parent engagement, and there's also a time for them to explore and learn on their own. So if you're on social media, more power to you, and that's how you want to spend some of your free time. I think it's great. But from my experience, I was doing work, work emails or work phone calls, and I felt this guilt, like I should be playing with my kids. And there is that should, that sh word, and I say this in my coaching practice all the time to my clients. I think that the sh word for should be equated to the sh word for shit, pardon my language, but it's like a bad word. We feel these shoulds, and they actually do us way more damage than good. And so going back to that time when I was, in the beginning of my consultancy, and here I was, a career mom, a wife, and somewhere in between there, I was my own person trying to spend time for myself. And I didn't have a ton of childcare. And I worked when I could. Was working during my kids' naps. I was working after bedtime. I was working, like I said, sometimes when they were playing. And I felt this pressure to do it all and to juggle it all, and that I had to be good at it. And there was this part of me that loved it. I loved being this superwoman. I can do it all. And then I hated it because I felt this guilt. And then I felt like I wasn't doing enough. And I was depleted and I was exhausted. And so there was this kind of this dichotomy going on within me, this struggle. And there were times when I wanted to go to a 9 to 5. Just I want to go to the bathroom by myself, and I want to be able to have time to myself. And but I made this choice that I wanted the consultancy life, and I liked it. But I was multitasking. There were times when I was tethered to my devices. But I also look back on that time, and I got everyone fed. Everyone was clothed. I bought birthday presents. I took them to sporting events. I hosted play dates. I volunteered in the classroom and I snuggled with them at night. I read stories. I taught them how to read. And I also contributed to our family financially. And in the present moment, I'm still doing all of those things, but two big things have shifted in my life. And those are the two things I want to share with you. And Kenan and I are going to dive deeper into the one of the main things, which is mindfulness. But the other thing is I've noticed my feeling and my thoughts. And this awareness is something that I'm working on as an individual and something that I bring to my coaching practice when I'm coaching my clients is to notice those thoughts. So those past thoughts of the guilt, right? The feeling was guilt. So I had this huge feeling of guilt that I wasn't doing enough and I was a working mom and I wasn't spending enough time with my kids. And so I had this little parrot on my shoulder, right? And it was telling me this stuff, right? Steph, you're not spending enough time with your kids. And right now, even sometimes this parrot is telling me, you know, Coco's going to kindergarten next year. She's my youngest. Coco's going to kindergarten next year. And it's your last year with her. You're being selfish by working so much. And so I really assess those thoughts, right? Are they true? Are they serving me? Do I want to indulge that effing parrot? No, I don't. I really don't. Um, because they're not true. And so then I get to ask myself this question: what do I want to think? Like, how do I really feel? And what do I want to think? And so this is what I think right now. I'm a working mom. I love my coaching career. It fills me up. And I also get to wear my professional hat. And when I'm done, I take that off and I put on my mommy hat. And I play and laugh and I'm present with my kids. And I don't have to do it all. And I am a fantastic mom just the way that I am. And I'm doing my best. And when I think these thoughts, I feel empowered. And it makes me actually want to spend quality time with them because I'm coming from a place of sufficiency rather than depletion. And this mindfulness piece is so huge to it because it's presence and it's changed my life. When I'm able to get that perspective that these are thoughts and I am not my thoughts, we are not our thoughts, is that they come and go, they ebb and flow. It's like a river, and you can choose to grab onto that thought and you can have it just spin over and over, and that parrot can just talk, 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 talk. Or you can choose to surrender the thoughts. And Ken, and I know you want to talk more in detail about mindfulness. Um, but I just encourage you moms out there to really go into the depth of the truth to the story that you're telling yourself and noticing the feeling. And if you're feeling guilty, sitting with that. And for me right now, just telling my story has allowed me to feel a freedom in it. And I've noticed that with my clients too, is that when you're able just to name it, feel it, tell it, it takes the power away from it.
Steph, first of all, thank you for sharing your story. And the reality is, and I don't know any mom out there who hasn't battled or questioned mommy guilt. And it's something that is so important to talk about and be honest about, and not to feel like, oh, I shouldn't say anything out of shame to my friends because, well, then they might judge me and think I'm a bad mom because I feel this way about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that it's been so freeing to be able to speak with you so openly throughout the course of my entire time as being a mom, and which is longer than yours, but your time of being a mom as well, and being able to process it with each other has been so helpful. And it's interesting, Steph, because I definitely, obviously with the older kids, I actually go into a place of past guilt.
Mm.
My kids now are more independent. They're in school full time. They have after school activities. So there is more time and space in my life. But then, even though I gave up my teaching career when my first child was born, um, I quickly built my own tutoring business, which was over half time. I was working over 20 hours a week really quickly just because of the demand. And it was great. And I felt fulfilled in that regard. But then it also took more time away from my time with my kids. So where I go,
Oh, no, I was going to say, Ken, and remember when you were running all those marathons too? And you felt this guilt, like I shouldn't be running these marathons because that's taking time away from my kids. But what it was giving you, right? Was that anyway? Talk about that a little bit too.
yeah, absolutely. But I was just thinking about going to that place, of course, of the past guilt. But yes, the marathon training, the working, and then being on, preschool was co-op, so I was volunteering all the time. I was on the board there, so on, and I wanted to be I wanted two of me. Basically, you're my clone. I could have taken you, right? Put you in my place. But no, it was that constant battle and struggle of giving enough and being also true to what I needed in
Mhm.
my life, which was my career. My running at the time was really important to me and fulfilling. But anyway, going back to what it is now for me is looking at the past. And so I wanted to segue now into that mindfulness piece that you talked about. And, first to give people my definition of mindfulness, which is present awareness without judgment. And what I mean by that is living in the moment, the present moment of now, and being here and letting whatever arises come and meeting it without judgment. So when I say without judgment, it doesn't mean that I have to be happy all the time or feel good. It just means that I notice the feelings. Maybe it's sadness or anger or happiness or joy. And that is what it is. And it's okay, whatever feelings arise. And I don't want to meet those with I shouldn't, that SH word again. I shouldn't have those thoughts. I shouldn't have those feelings. That's that piece of being open to just what is in this present moment.
Mhm.
And for me, my constant practice of living in the present is taking time. I practice mindfulness or meditation, whatever you want to call it, for 10 minutes a day. And that's been the perfect number for me. If I try to set a goal of 30 minutes, it doesn't happen. So 10 minutes is something I can easily carve out of my day. And, kind of speaking of being present and with my kids too, that mom guilt again, 10 minutes is the perfect amount of time. I can get away, even if there's chaos in my house, sit in have my time to myself, and then be recharged and ready to come back and be there for others. And taking time does make me a better mom. So I would just say, Steph, when I get to those stories of the mom guilt, I mean, I still have it in the present moment too. But I deal mostly with the talking brain of the past and that past guilt. Then I do exactly what you do. And I loved your analogy of having the parrot in the back talking, and just really I sit with it and I see if there is truth in it, or again, if it's just that parrot talking and making up the story.
Well, Kenan, I said this before on a podcast, and someone who listened to our podcast said, "Oh, I loved how you described this stuff." And it's not. I didn't. I read this somewhere, so it was. It was that our mind is like a 2-year-old with or a toddler with a kitchen knife, right? So it's untrained. Like we don't, it doesn't like, you don't know what's going to happen if your mind, if you're also not, if you don't have some sort of practice. And I'm not saying everyone out there should practice mindfulness, but it is one tool that can allow you to really be aware of the thoughts, and if we're attaching to those thoughts, um and then that thought, right, will create that feeling, right? So the thought of I'm, I'm selfish because I'm working, it causes me to feel guilty, and then it's, it filters down to then how I show up in this world, right? So then um and then when you're able to shift that, it's pretty amazing. And you just let it, and also it's kind of back to that thing of the, like you said, it's allowing it to be. And then because I say this to my kids too, thoughts are like clouds, right? You can just let them dissolve. Is that there is you don't have to attach to them. And then we also can say, hey, you know what, we're doing the best that we can as moms. And I, at the end of the day, we're also human, and we also have, like, for me, I have a career and I enjoy what I do, but I also, it's also contributing to my family. So that's something that, I have to also take that into consideration, where it's not just like, oh, I decide just to spend every waking minute playing with my kids, because that's also not in service for them. They need to play and learn on their own. um so
Mm. Well, I'm just so glad we could have this conversation with each other and whoever is out there listening to us, and just hopefully that anyone out there, you can take a little from what we said, and maybe identifying, of course, with some of the guilt, and it daddy guilt too. I mean, it is not just mommy guilt. You and I just happen to both be females, so we're speaking to that of our experience. But there is, I mean, we could just call it parent guilt, right?
mhm.
um, and then also just knowing that whatever it is, I mean, we talk so much about well-being in our podcast, and whatever it is that you do to create that time for yourself and space to process or be is so important. So I just encourage you out there to think about that, to really think about what is it that you can do in your life for yourself.
And make it a practice.
Mm.
Don't just try it once. Try it, try it on for 3 weeks, a month, and see what happens in your life and how you feel.
And
So
Steph, I actually, let me just add one more thing. I remembered that from when we did that mindfulness teacher course a couple summers ago. And that was one piece of the homework, was practicing mindfulness. And I remember them saying in the course, this is something that we're kind of giving you for homework to do every day, because if you don't make it a priority, and then to your point, it becomes a practice, then it won't be something that you are diving into,
yeah, it
and it
doesn't
doesn't
become
be.
second nature. It
Yes,
almost becomes like, this is part of my routine. This is part of my day. This is something that, it's like brushing your teeth. You just do.
hopefully everyone does. Just kidding.
Hopefully everyone brushes their teeth.
We
Oh,
can end on that nice light note, right?
yes, absolutely. And thank you to our audience. Please subscribe and turn on your notifications. We release new episodes weekly, and you can find us on Apple, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and our YouTube channel. Just search for Twin Chat with S&K. And you can also find us on Instagram at rise.life.coach and online at Rise Life Coach. So thank you all. Namaste.
Bye.